motherhood. My name is Anissa. Therapy is definitely one of the tools I've used for healing, and that was covered in the last episode. You should watch it if you haven't. And one of the other things I've used a lot in my healing is mushrooms. And I don't only mean the wacky-doo magic mushrooms. We'll talk about those, but I literally mean like mushroom supplements. When you've been in an abusive relationship or a toxic situation or anything that causes you to be in a fight or flight response for an extended amount of time, you have really high stress levels in your body, and it's like not healthy to stay at that stress level for a long time. And when you have, and your body is starting to feel the effects of stress, you need to kind of attack it from many different ways and you know, co-regulating breathing. There's many things to do for healing, and one of them is truly like supplements and things that you take. So that's what we're gonna talk about today. Mushrooms have been, and will always be a huge part of my healing journey. I feel like it is physical, mental, it's everything. And mushrooms they're just a fruit of fungus. So like if you think of an apple to a tree, like a tree, mushrooms are the fruit of fungus. And fungus comes from mycelium, and mycelium is a network of fungal threads or hyphae. Mycelia often grow underground, but can also thrive in other places such as rotting tree trunks. So it's kind of like this, like a computer network, like for the internet. It's the computer internet, the web, is exactly like what mycelium grows, but like on the ground, under the dirt, and there's millions and millions of mycelia in just like one little cubic inch of walking through any forest. Mushrooms are made from some magical shit. Mycelium have more networks than our brains have neural pathways. There's trillions of end branches, and they share the same network design as the internet. So like when you see all those graphics and stuff of the internet, that's exactly what mycelium looks like, but it's like real and you can touch it and it's here and it produces the mushrooms. Trees actually use mycelium to share water and nutrients through those networks, and they use them to communicate. They send distress signals about drought and disease or insect attacks, and other trees alter their behavior when they receive the messages. So the mycelium is literally like the internet for growing things, for plants and stuff. Mycelium is not a plant. There have been mycelium fossils found that are billions of years old. In South Africa, they found it in the sediments of lava. Then I think in Brazil, they found another fossil that cut in half. It's like exactly the imprint of a mushroom. Like mushrooms have been around since the start of the planet, and a lot of people, Paul Stamets and many other experts in mycology, really believe that we kind of divided from fungus about 650 million years ago. Like, you know, what came first, the chicken or the egg? Mushrooms. That's what came first. Mushrooms. That's how we all got here. Mushrooms are our mama. Literally, mycelium is the mother of all of us. About 650 million years ago, there was one branch that led to fungus and one branch that led to animals. And there's actually a USA Today article that backs this up. Mushrooms share more DNA with humans than plants. So mushrooms aren't even really a fucking plant. Mushroom DNA is closer to human than plants. That's why it tastes meaty. Fungi, including mushrooms, are more closely related to animals than plants. They share genetic characteristics that plants do not have. Matt Casson, who is an associate professor of mycology at West Virginia University, said the first hypothesis about the relationship between fungi and animals emerged in the 1950s. So this isn't something like brand new that they're talking about. Scientists were able to test and confirm these suspicions years later. There are major overlapping characteristics shared by fungi and animals that plants do not have. For example, both mushrooms and humans store carbohydrate energy as glycogen, while plants use starch to store energy. Both fungi and insects use the polysaccharide chitin to build cell walls, while plants use cellulose. And mushrooms, like humans, produce vitamin D when exposed to sunlight. That's why scientists or people assume that that's why mushrooms have a meaty taste. That it likely comes from glutamate, which is a neurotransmitter that several other savory foods, including some meats, contain. So it is literally in our DNA. We came from mushrooms. So it only makes sense that taking mushrooms is going to be beneficial. It's, you know, it's a piece of you. Okay, but mushrooms are not just like a pizza topping or, you know, something you add in your pasta dish or salad. And they're not just food. Like you can take them in supplement forms, and that's how I like to take my mushrooms. Paul Stamets, He is kind of one of the foremost experts on mushrooms. Like he participated in this documentary Fantastic Fungi that I watched to help, you know, do some research for this. He also has several TED Talks. He has a whole YouTube channel. He's an author and he's a business owner, but he has done some really cool shit with mushrooms. So he had an ant problem in his house, like carpenter ants, and like he could see their little, like their droppings or their dust that they leave to show that they were there, and it was driving him crazy, and none of the pesticides were working. And ants have this way of, you know, communicating with each other and know what's going on. So this dude, little Mr. Scientist, decides to take the mushrooms and he morphs them in his lab so that they're not like shedding spores, because I guess the ants understand the spores. And he tells these stories much more clearly in his TED Talks. I highly suggest them, they'll be linked below. But he feeds the ants this morphed mushroom mycelium that he created in his lab. And it works. The ants eat it, and then they don't realize that they have a pesticide or something, you know, poisonous that's gonna hurt them. So they all eat it, they give it to the queen, everybody dies. And the wildest part was that the mycelium started to take over the dead ant, and then mushrooms started to grow. Like you see the dead ant body and a fucking mushroom like growing out of its little carcass head. It was like the craziest shit to see. This dude has like so many patents on mushroom for its uses. Mushrooms have been used for so many ways. So that's one of the cool ways he uses mushrooms. But then he goes into this story about turkey tail mushroom, because there's many different types of mushrooms, and there are some that you eat, there are some that are toxic, and then there are some that do have nootropics and adaptogens and all these different things that kind of help with your brain and help with healing. And when your nervous system has been on edge for so long, or your immune system is weakened, these mushrooms, when you take them, they help and they heal. This dude, his mother, she was 84 years old. She calls him, and he says this in the TED Talk, links below. She calls him, you know, really concerned because she's like, something's seriously wrong. They go to the doctor, they realize she has stage 4 cancer. It has metastasized to her sternum, her liver. The doctor gave her about 3 months to live. And they said she was a little bit too old for radiation or surgery. So they were like, literally, we don't know what to do, but here's some like real pharmaceuticals that you can take. And then they said, you know, there's also this study on these mushrooms, maybe they could help. And she was like, that's my son. So her son, Paul Stamets, helps her, you know, she starts taking the medicine and the mushrooms. And in the TED Talk, he has his mother walk on stage, and she had no detectable signs of cancer after that treatment that they took. From going from stage 4 to all of a sudden, no detectable cancer in her body, and she walked on stage. It was the sweetest thing. He's literally crying, hugging her on stage. It's amazing, and it shows the power of mushrooms. Lion's mane is another common mushroom that you can get in supplement form. I take it. It is a nootropic also. A nootropic is really just another word for a smart drug. It's a diverse group of medicinal substances whose action improves human thinking, learning, and memory. So it's anything that kind of will enhance your performance, but in a natural way. Your body knows it, likes it, and it works right away on your brain. There are pharmaceutical nootropics that we usually see people using for conditions like ADHD or Alzheimer's. You've probably heard of Adderall, Ritalin, stuff like that. Those are pharmaceutical nootropics, but mushrooms are also nootropics, and they're natural, and they are a great addition to any regimen that you're already on. I'm not a doctor. I'm not your doctor. I'm just a bad bitch with some little secret tips. That's all we got going on here. So lion's mane mushroom, there's an article on Healthline and it lists the 9 benefits of lion's mane mushrooms plus some side effects, because obviously everything's gonna have side effects. Before you start anything, obviously you always talk to your doctors. I would love to know if anybody has tried mushrooms. Can you leave me a comment below and let me know if you take mushrooms for a supplement or anything like that, and what mushrooms you take. There have been scientific research studies done on mushrooms and their benefits in lion's mane specifically. And one of the benefits, it could protect against dementia. They reduce symptoms of memory loss in mice, as well as prevent neuronal damage caused by plaques. A 2020 study of people with mild Alzheimer's disease found that supplementation with one gram of lion's mane mushroom daily for 49 weeks significantly improved cognitive test scores compared with a placebo. So there have been real research done. It helps relieve mild symptoms of depression and anxiety. That was definitely one of the reasons I started to use lion's mane. It can help with nervous system injuries. So like I said, when you've been in a fight or flight response for a really long time and your nervous system is kind of just shot and you really never are in that co-regulated state where you're calm and you're relaxed and your nervous system never gets a break, lion's mane mushroom helps. Or if your nervous system has been shot, like maybe you are calm, you are regulated, but fuck, you know, like a little massage to the nervous system, that sounds good to me. It can protect against ulcers in the digestive tract, reduce the risk of heart disease, help manage diabetes symptoms, help fight cancer. That was another big one. I've seen this in several documentaries that have like healing stuff when they start to talk about mushrooms and their healing benefits. It absolutely has been shown to help with cancer patients. And it reduces inflammation and oxidative stress. Lion's mane mushroom contain powerful anti-inflammatory and antioxidant compounds that may reduce the risk of some illnesses. Other natural nootropics that you probably know of are caffeine, which can bring mental focus, L-theanine, it's an amino acid and it increases alpha waves in your brain. And alpha waves contribute to a relaxed yet alert mental state. So you're, again, not in fight or flight. You are relaxed, your body is fine, but you're alert and you can pay attention, you know? Ginkgo biloba, creatine, these are all natural nootropics that are really helpful for your brain health, your brain and nervous system health. And there's a book called Beyond Coffee, A Sustainable Guide to Nootropics, Adaptogens, and Mushrooms by James Bashara. He also created this drink Magic Mind, and I've been taking it for a few days, and it has lion's mane mushrooms in it. They are the fluffiest mushroom out there. They're a nootropic adaptogen. They help reduce anxiety, inflammation while supporting cognition. It has lion's mane mushroom in it and also cordyceps mushrooms, which are also an adaptogen that help reduce inflammation. Energy drinks like super just make me jittery. I didn't want to be drinking caffeine all day long because I really need to be able to sleep good at night. So Magic Mind was a really, really dope little supplement in my morning routine. It just kind of helps me get in the right state of mind for a productive day. I feel like I'm doing something good for myself. Like I know there are good things in this. So taking it just makes me feel like I'm doing something to care about myself. I'm nourishing my body and I'm helping myself heal from the inside out. So I really do enjoy Magic Mind. You can get yourself Magic Mind if you go to magicmind.com/Anitza and use my code Anitza20. You'll get 56% off your first subscription or 20% off your first order if you use the code Anitza20. ENITZA20. It also works if you're already a subscriber and you can save on your next subscription payment. Literally the Kardashians are drinking it, so... But also they have 100% money back guarantee, so even if you don't like it, you can return it and in 3 to 4 hours you'll get your money back. So there's no risk in taking it and a lot to gain from taking it. So again, it's magicmind.com/Anitza, Enitza. Use code Anitza20 to save 56% off your first subscription or 20% off your first order. And it works if you're already subscribing to them. So I highly recommend it. It is really good stuff. Aside from the nootropics and the legal mushrooms that many people consume, there are also the psychedelic kind that people consume. And not in just a hippy dippy woo woo silly way. Literally Johns Hopkins University has done a study on psilocybin specifically. Johns Hopkins has a Center for Psychedelic and Consciousness Research. They are the leading way in exploring innovative treatment using psilocybin. That is the psychoactive chemical in the magic mushrooms that some people are afraid to take. They are not scary. And the scientific and medical experts are just beginning to understand the effects on the brain and mind and the potential as a therapeutic for mental illness. And there was recently a study done that says psilocybin treatment for major depression is effective for up to a year with most patients. So taking a psychedelic trip with mushrooms can just one trip depending on the dose and under the right circumstances. These are medicinal with doctors in controlled settings. The relief from major depression can last up to a year. That's huge. It's huge. And mushrooms are nothing to be afraid of. It's not like they don't know what's in them. Psilocybin is the chemical compound that makes magic mushrooms psychoactive. They already know it and they know that it's safe to use. They're just researching with what level. It's not like it's poison. Huberman has a podcast and he did a whole episode on psilocybin and he dives way deeper into it. He's literally like he's a teacher at Stanford University. Homeboy knows what he's talking about. I will link his podcast below as well. But psilocybin, he says this in in his podcast, psilocybin is basically serotonin, and serotonin controls your mood and is responsible for your happiness. So psilocybin is essentially serotonin when it goes into your body and when you use it. And in the Huberman podcast, he talks about the brain receptors, and he really dives deep into it. It's like a 2-hour long podcast, but he talks about how your visual receptors are also serotonin receivers or something like that. So that's why when you take magic mushrooms, since it's serotonin and it grabs onto the serotonin in your body, or the serotonin receptors, that's why you have a lot of visual hallucinations. Actually, a lot of what they suggest you do is to keep your eyes closed, so that while you're having these visual hallucinations, your eyes are closed, and those hallucinations are helping you to kind of look within and get that introspection that we want from typical therapy. But sometimes it's hard to get, sometimes it's hard to open up and talk. So, I mean, when you look at it and you see, healing as this whole big picture thing, it's mind, body, spirit, whatever. It has nothing to do with religion, but when you see yourself and your healing journey as this whole big picture, and you start to take big chunks of it back and you take control of it, I think you'll see a lot more progress in your healing journey. So if the only mushrooms you've ever tried are on a pizza or in some sort of food, I highly recommend you look at some of the resources I have below, do some research for yourself, maybe think about including mushrooms into your healing journey, because it's been truly, truly amazing for me. So thank you for watching. Thank you for being with me. There will be another episode soon, and I love you.
We're driving cars on a Mars tonight.